She just wanted to go unnoticed in that elegant restaurant, even if she was celebrating her own birthday alone. But when a stranger sits at her table and whispers something unexpected, an apparently failed night turns into something impossible to predict. Sometimes the most unlikely encounters happen when we feel most invisible, and they change everything. Hello, my friends. I am Linda, and this is the Linda's Stories channel. I hope you enjoy this story. Kate watched the light rain falling outside the taxi. Birthdays were supposed to be days of celebration, but at 32, she found herself alone in an unfamiliar city, far from everyone she loved. 6 months had passed since her transfer to the company's headquarters, and yet she still felt like a complete stranger. "It's down this street, miss," said the driver, pointing to an elegant restaurant. "I'll try to find a spot in front so you won't get wet." "Thank you," Kate replied, searching for her umbrella in her bag. The taxi barely moved when the driver braked sharply. Kate heard a curse word and the unmistakable sound of a tire blowing out. "I'm sorry, miss," the driver said, getting out to check the damage. "Looks like I'll need to change the tire. Would you prefer to wait or—" "Don't worry, I'm fine here," Kate replied, forcing a smile. The rain had increased, and her carefully styled hair was already beginning to succumb to the humidity. She would have to walk a few meters on that street. Perfect, she thought. One more detail to complete this wonderful day. Inside the restaurant, the soft lights illuminated smiling couples and gathered families. Kate felt a tightness in her chest. Just a few hours ago, she had lied to her mother on the phone. "Yes, Mum, some colleagues from work organised a small celebration," she had said, hoping her voice wouldn't reveal the truth. "Don't worry about me. I will have a lot of fun." The truth was quite different. There was no celebration, nor friends waiting. Just a reservation for one person at a restaurant that cost more than she should spend. "Good evening. I have a reservation under the name of Catherine Hayes," she said to the receptionist, a young woman with perfectly arranged hair and a rehearsed smile. The young woman checked the computer, her smile faltering slightly. "I'm sorry, Miss Hayes, it seems there was an error with your reservation. I can't find your name in the system." "But I called yesterday," Kate insisted, feeling the onset of a headache. "I spoke with someone named Marcus." "Marcus no longer works with us," the receptionist replied in a tone that suggested Kate should know this. "I can check if we can accommodate you, but you'll have to wait at least half an hour." The receptionist looked around and then asked in a slightly condescending tone, "Are you alone tonight?" Kate forced a smile. "Yes, I am." "Ah," the receptionist replied, as if that explained everything. "Well, you can wait at the bar. I'll call you as soon as we have a table. For one." 40 minutes and an expensive cocktail later, Kate was finally led to a small table near the kitchen. The constant noise of dishes and pans was not exactly what she had in mind when she booked the place. After studying the menu, she placed her order, wild mushroom risotto with white wine reduction. When the dish arrived, she discovered they had brought an eggplant lasagna. "Sorry, but I ordered the risotto," she gently explained to the waiter. "Oh, sorry," he responded, taking the plate away with a sigh that suggested she was being difficult. 15 minutes later, the risotto finally arrived. Kate watched the steam rising from the plate, feeling strangely empty despite her hunger. She was about to taste the first bite when a man abruptly sat down in front of her. "Just keep eating," he said in a low voice, smiling as if they were old friends. "Or I'll have to sit with my boss and his family, and trust me, nobody deserves that on a Friday night." Kate froze, the fork suspended in the air. "Who are you? Why did you sit here?" "Sorry, it's just for a minute," he said, casually adjusting the napkin on his lap. "Pretend you know me, please. Look discreetly at that table to your right. Family of 5 people, bald man with a blue tie laughing too loudly." Kate glanced sideways and saw exactly what he had described. "I don't understand anything, but what difference does it make? My day is already terrible anyway," she said resignedly, putting down the fork. The man visibly relaxed. "Thank you. You saved my night. My name is Caleb, by the way. I was dining alone, but when I saw my boss enter with his family, I knew he would want me to sit with them. And I can assure you it would be one of the most tedious experiences. The man can turn a story about changing a light bulb into a 20-minute monologue. Despite her initial irritation, Kate couldn't contain a small smile. There was something genuinely charming about the way he spoke, fast, enthusiastic, with a playful sparkle in his brown eyes. At that moment, a waiter approached the table. "Miss, since today is your birthday, we would like to offer you a dessert, courtesy of the house," he said, placing a small decorated card on the table. Kate blushed deeply. When she made the reservation, she mentioned it was to celebrate her birthday, thinking that perhaps a small detail could make the lonely night a little more special. Now, with a stranger at her table, she felt exposed and vulnerable. "Thank you," she murmured, with an awkward smile. Caleb's eyes widened. "I can't believe it's your birthday and you're dining alone," he said, genuinely surprised. Before Kate could respond, Caleb called the waiter back. "We can't let it be this way. Please bring 2 glasses of your best sparkling wine so we can celebrate." "There's no need, really," Kate protested, but Caleb waved his hand in the air as if shooing away an insect. "Birthdays are sacred," he declared with theatrical conviction. "My grandmother always said that the way you spend your birthday sets the tone for your next year. I can't let you start your new cycle alone at a table near the kitchen." There was something in his excitement, in the way he spoke with his hands and smiled with his whole face, that was irresistibly contagious. Kate found herself relaxing for the first time that day. "Do you always crash strangers' tables like this?" she asked, finally tasting her risotto. "Only the pretty ones," he replied with a wink, making her choke slightly. "Sorry, was that too cheeky? I have this problem with social filters. My sister says I was born without the part of the brain that stops people from saying what they think." The wine arrived, and Caleb proposed a toast. "To Catherine." "Kate," she corrected. "To Kate, then. May your next year be full of good surprises, genuine laughter, and fewer lonely dinners." As they drank, Kate found herself talking about her move, how she had been transferred from the small branch to the headquarters, taking on a management position many coveted. "On my first day, I heard someone whisper in the hallway, 'How can they bring a country bumpkin from an insignificant branch to run our department? She must have slept with someone important,' Kate revealed, the pain of that memory still fresh. "Pure jealousy," Caleb stated, filling their glasses again. "Mediocre people fear competent people. It's the universal law of mediocrity." Kate laughed. "It's an interesting theory." "It's not a theory, it's scientific fact. I studied it at the University of Life in the course of idiot observation." He put on a serious face which quickly dissolved into laughter. The conversation flowed naturally. Kate talked about her apartment in the building full of elderly people, including Mr. Grisham, the neighbour who had knocked on her door at 6:05 to complain about the deafening noise of her hairdryer. He was wearing a wristwatch and pointed to it, saying, "It's 6:05 in the evening, young lady. The condominium regulations are clear about noise at night," Kate mimicked, making Caleb burst into laughter. "And what did you say?" "That I was drying my hair, not operating a jackhammer," replied Kate, surprised at how she could laugh about it now. At the time, the incident had made her cry after she closed the door. While sharing a tiramisu dessert, Kate found out that Caleb worked as an architect at a nearby office. He was passionate about urban green spaces and was always trying to include gardens in his projects. "The city needs to breathe," he explained, drawing circles in the air with his fork. "So do people. There's something in nature that reconnects us with who we really are." Before they knew it, they were the last customers in the restaurant. The manager circulated discreetly, frequently checking his watch. "I think we're being asked to leave," said Kate, noticing the staff already cleaning the other tables. Caleb insisted on paying for dinner, but Kate only agreed to let him pay for his part of the bill, even though he insisted on paying for the wine. It was my intrusive idea, after all. On the sidewalk in front of the restaurant, Kate felt a strange reluctance to say goodbye. The night that had started so disastrously had turned into one of the most pleasant ones in recent months. "Well, thank you for saving my birthday," she said, searching for her keys in her bag to mask her nervousness. "The birthday isn't over yet," Caleb replied, looking at his watch. "We still have—" He paused dramatically. 1 hour and 23 minutes to ensure your next year is amazing." Kate raised an eyebrow. "What do you suggest?" "Tomorrow is Saturday. Let me show you a special place, a secret only the locals know. It's like an extension of your birthday." Under normal circumstances, Kate would have politely declined. She was cautious by nature, especially with men she had just met. But there was something about Caleb that inspired trust. Perhaps it was his almost childlike honesty, or the way he had turned her solitary dinner into a memorable evening. "All right," she replied, surprising herself. "Where do we meet?" The next morning, Kate looked at herself in the mirror, questioning if she had lost her mind by accepting the invitation. What if Caleb wasn't who he seemed to be? What if she had overdone it with the wine and misinterpreted his intentions? Your phone rang, displaying an unknown number. "Hello?" "Kate, it's Caleb. I'm in front of your building with coffee and croissants. If you don't show up in 5 minutes, Mr. Grisham is looking at me through the window like I'm a delinquent and I think he's about to call the police." Kate laughed, her nervousness dissipating. "I'm coming down." When she arrived at the lobby, she saw Caleb waving excitedly while Mr. Grisham watched him suspiciously from the reception desk. "Good morning, Mr. Grisham," Kate greeted cheerfully. "This is my friend Caleb." The elderly man just muttered something unintelligible before returning to his apartment. "You weren't exaggerating about him," Caleb whispered, handing her a cup of coffee. "I thought he was going to ask me for ID and a criminal background check." "He asks that of all the food delivery drivers," Kate replied with a smile. "Where are we going?" "It's a surprise," Caleb answered, guiding her to his car, an old green Volvo with plants on the back seat. "Sorry for the mess," he said, removing some books from the passenger seat. "I'm a functional hoarder." After 20 minutes driving to a neighbourhood on the outskirts of the city, Caleb parked near an area that seemed abandoned. "I'm not going to be murdered, am I?" Kate joked, though a small part of her was genuinely apprehensive. "I promise it's worth the suspense," he replied, taking a bag from the trunk. They walked along a narrow path almost hidden amongst the bushes. After a few minutes, they reached a clearing that opened up to the most astonishing garden Kate had ever seen. Hidden between ancient walls covered with ivy, the place looked like something out of a fairy tale, with stone fountains, marble benches worn by time, and wildflowers growing in abundance. Some people were reading while lying on the lawns. Others were drawing the stunning landscape with their sketch pads. "What is this place?" Kate asked in wonder, slowly spinning to take in the beauty around her. "It was part of an old rural estate," Caleb explained. "The main house was demolished decades ago, but the garden was forgotten. Few know it still exists. I discovered it while doing research for a preservation project." They spent the morning exploring the secret garden. Caleb spread a towel under a leafy tree and shared the croissants and fruits he had brought. He told stories about the town, the places he loved, and the projects he dreamed of. Kate realized she was laughing more than she had in the past 6 months combined. There was something liberating about being in that hidden place with someone who seemed genuinely interested in getting to know her. "You know, yesterday before you showed up, I was almost decided to request a transfer back to the branch," Kate confessed, watching the movement of the clouds through the leaves of the tree. "Why?" Caleb asked, turning to look at her. "Because nothing seemed to go right. I felt like an outsider at work. I had no friends. Even my apartment didn't feel like home." She sighed. "I was starting to think I had made a mistake in accepting the promotion. And now," Kate reflected for a moment, "now, I don't know. Maybe I just needed a little perspective, or maybe I needed someone to make me laugh." In the following weeks, Kate discovered a new city through Caleb's eyes. He introduced her to his friends, an eclectic group of artists, teachers, and professionals who welcomed her without hesitation. For the first time since she had moved, she felt like she was building genuine connections. At work, inspired by the confidence she was developing in her personal life, Kate began to assert herself more. She proposed new ideas, demonstrated her expertise, and gradually earned the respect of colleagues who had previously viewed her with suspicion. Even the building's janitor, Mr. Martinez, who had always been kind to her, noticed the change. "You seem different, Miss Hayes," he commented as she waited for the elevator. "Lighter." Kate smiled. "It's because I finally feel at home, Mr. Martinez." In the end, Kate realized that time often seems to work against us, like when everything goes wrong just when we most wish it would go right. But time is also wise, and sometimes it delays, disrupts, or even prevents us from following a plan just to lead us to something better. Life doesn't happen at the pace we desire, but at the pace we need. And when we learn to trust time, even in its interruptions, we discover that the greatest gifts arrive precisely when we stop waiting and just live. If you enjoyed the story, please leave a comment with a rating from 1 to 5 to show how much you liked it. Also, watch the video that is now appearing on your screen. See you soon.